I've been here a little over a decade. I've given about 7 of these, and I hope that this one, because I made it very distinct, we're going to discuss 3 things that have happened in the last 4 months that have to do with Jesus Christ and how strong he is. The first thing, though, that I want to tell you is the very first one of these that I did, it was about my life, which I'm not getting into here at all today, other than to tell you that don't know me, that whatever I am comes from having an earthly father that loved me like a gift, not a possession. So I grew up with that all my life. So even when I was making mistakes and stuff, not only was the Lord forgiving me, so was my earthly father. So it helped shape what I believe I am today. That's it about me. Now, we're going to discuss 3 things today. I actually named this testimony of the 7. It's the only one. And about the very first one, you want to talk about good coming from testimony? I asked my wife for the first time to attend church with me to hold my hand because I knew it had my father in it and I was going to cry. And she came. She liked it here just as much as I did. I never had to ask her to come back. She just decided she wanted to be here. So that can be the power of a testimony. And we've been together 42 years and never had we attended church together for going to church, weddings and funerals, but not actually to be in church. Well, I need to get started on the things that I want you to know about. And the name of this testimony is Thoughtful Hearts Are Like Magnets to Miracles. And what I mean by that is this church right here at South, as far as I'm concerned, created a miracle for me to watch. And I'm going to thank a few people for things that happened. The people that are in our small group were Raymond and Larry and I and a guy named Mike Tuttle and Terry Little used to come. And on Friday of the week, we would meet. And Raymond was always there because him and I started this when Pastor Ron became Bishop Ron and no longer had a group for us to go to. So Raymond and I started becoming friends because he was the leader and I was the host. And so I got to know him well and became great friends. And on the Friday, he did not show up. And I waited till Sunday to ask Larry, have you heard from Raymond? I can't believe he didn't show up, but we couldn't find him. And finally, on that Sunday at church, when we both decided that he wasn't going to show up, we called the police, and I went over there during church, and sure as the world, we have no idea, and Raymond has no idea just exactly how long he was down. But they found him laying on the floor of his apartment. And that started the story about the miracles that happened by this church. And it starts with Robert, our new pastor. We couldn't find Raymond after he ended up in the hospital because when he left Wesley, I called to find out when he was going to be moved and where he'd be moved, and he was already gone, and they won't tell you nothing. So our pastor has a few connections, and so what did he do? He found out for us where Raymond was. Now, once we found Raymond, the bottom line is I found a man who was physically broken because of his injuries. And the nursing home even told me they do not believe this man is going to make it. But when I finally found him and we began to talk about how many people loved him and how many people had begun to pray, you could see the strength come back into him slowly but surely, along with the fact that there was something that helped that is of this earth, and that was a pill called Mega Ace, Megace. And what did it do? It helped us create an appetite so he could get his strength back. And sure as the world, it did come back. And so Raymond, through your prayers and your help, has come back in a short period of time when everybody at the nursing home said he would be dead. Now, if that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. And we're so glad to have you back, too, Raymond. So I can remember telling him, you can't die on me. I said, I'm not done learning from you, so you got to stick around, and sure as the world, he did. So that's pretty well the first one that has happened since the first of the year for me to actually get to see what prayer, the power of prayer can actually do. Because I do believe the prayers and then the help from people. Larry, I want to thank the other people. Larry and the ladies, and I don't know all their names, that helped us get Raymond out of his apartment, which he needed to be out of. And the Glassburn family have been very good to Raymond too, and I think it needs to be mentioned that they have been really good to him, and that this church has really stood up and been there for Raymond. So I thank you very much for that. Now, normally I bring only the most important book for me, which is naturally a Bible to give these. But it was asked that we talk about book studies. And I never had done one. And when I got busy and did one, I picked one out that lasted 24 weeks. So and you know what? The book ain't that darn big. And the chapters are only about 5 pages. But let me warn you about this book. This book will cause you to praise the Lord more than you ever have. But it is a difficult read because the man who wrote it loves to talk a little bit like the people who glorified the Lord clear back in the 14th, 15th, 16th centuries. So the language in it is very difficult sometimes. That's why I'm glad that I had Raymond and my group because we read it together. I'm glad I had my wife because we read it together. And then I would read it myself, and then we had somebody. How many times had you done that book study? Did you tell me? 4 times. So we had somebody who knew it inside and out. And it is a great book. And I actually got involved with part of it that I thought was really a lot of fun. And what it was the quotes that the man used in the Bible, bottom line, came from clear back in the 14th, 16th, and 17th centuries, and they were poems and hymns from that time. And Ron pointed out to me just how differently they talked during that time and how they praised the Lord with their hymns. And so there would be little verses in here, and each week I would look them up. And so I'm going to give you just a quick taste, and then I can move on about things that Dozier put in his book that caught my eye. And the reason I started doing it was you just get a short verse. You don't get the whole hymn or the whole poem or anything like that. So I would go looking for the whole thing so I could get everything that was in that. But some of the things that you learn are like this. That God can be known by the soul in tender personal experiences while remaining infinitely aloof from the curious eyes of reason constitutes a paradox best described as darkness to the intellect, but sunshine to the heart. So sometimes getting carried away with the details can cause you to lose the message. And that was one that I really liked. I'm only going to do 3 of these quickly. The next one, I love this one because we all know how hard it is to understand the Trinity and what his quote was. And these are all, like I said, 14th, 15th, 16th century things. He said, the doctrine of the Trinity, as I have said before, is truth from the heart. The fact that it cannot be satisfactorily explained instead of being against it is in its favor. Such a truth had to be revealed. No one could have imagined it. And then comes what it says. This was from one of the great songwriters of the time, and it said, O blessed Trinity, O simple majesty, O 3 in 1, thou art forever God alone. Holy Trinity, blessed equal 3, one God we praise thee. So these are the kind of strong things you get, and I'm going to wrap it up out of this book with this one because it's really short. And this was probably one of the guys that was considered one of the best songwriters and came out of the Wesley family. And what it says here we see that God uses change as a lowly servant to bless his redeemed household. But he himself is outside of the law of mutation and is unaffected by any change that occurs in the universe. And then Wesley simply in one of his things, and I read the whole thing, but the two verses that are in this book, it says, "And all things as they change proclaim the Lord eternally the same." So I think you'll enjoy this book if you want to take the time to read it, reread it, and read it, because it is difficult to understand. But it is worth every bit of it, and I guarantee you that you will praise your Lord even more once you understand what's in that book. Because what did I take away from it myself was this: how bad I really am still, and how great he is, and how we do not understand at all his greatness, because human words cannot describe a God like we have. So that's what, and they had asked somebody to talk about this, so I thought my testimony was a good place because it was my first book study, and I feel like the Lord really spoke to me. He has helped me with the problems I have. And for those of you who are here that haven't heard mine before, if you want to know what I'm about, I came to this church as a self-serving, self-centered person trying to find Jesus Christ again because I had no excuse for having lost him, simply because I had been showed the way by an earthly father and had lost track of it. And I had promised him one day I would go back, and I did. So now, my favorite projects for myself, and what they have to do with is this. And this is why I did it, because here's what I believe. This is what I believe. I seem to be out my. I'm doing it. Okay, the final one, and this is what made me decide to do it. I decided what my job was, and the way I would say that I discovered it was from something I had read, and what it said was this: it is God's job to put before us those he wants us to help. It is also his job to give us the resources to help them. And finally, it is our job to be faithful and act. And I had decided that middle schoolers, because I'd had 5 of them in a Sunday school class here that had left, but they went to a school all together, and so I decided to go to the school and reach out to them there. And now, in 3 years, I can say that I've had the opportunity with Augie to reach out to probably close to 2,000 different children, and I do it 5 days a week. I do it 5 days a week with Augie, and Augie's certainly the show, because I tell people all the time, I said, I'd have been just another old white man there if Augie hadn't have come along. So the bottom line, because they love this dog dearly, and we now have a program that's called Respect and Kindness that we started 3 years ago. And I can say, and I'm going to finish this up because I could go on, and I know I'm probably already close to my 10 minutes, is the final thing the Lord has shown me from doing his work is I now attend daily the only school in Salina, Kansas, where the children are now well behaved enough that they're allowed to stay outside when the bell goes off at 7:15 and visit with each other, because they have learned over the last 3 that respect and kindness truly are the keys to your freedom. So I would just let you know that I love this church. I would never do anything to harm it. Doesn't mean I necessarily agree with everything, but I think people need to learn that don't sweat the small details. If you're getting the rest of it right, what matters the most? Praising the Lord every day, and then doing it on Sunday with people that you believe are your friends and that you love. Thank you very much.